Hey, everybody, welcome to Hearing God in Titus chapter 3. And the book continues with the Apostle Paul. After he had planted churches in Crete, he went away and he entrusted this young man, Timothy, to bring organization to the churches and to make sure that there was right doctrine, but also right behavior. And so here in chapter 3, in verse 2, which is my highlight, he gives a very specific instruction about the connection between doctrine and behavior. He says that Titus is to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. And so here the emphasis is on the importance of our speech. And in the application part, I said, what a great verse this would be to tape above our computer monitors, right? Because as a pastor, one of the things that grieves my heart more than any other is when I see professing believers on Facebook or any other social media platform violating this verse: to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. That should be characteristic of our speech at all times, but especially on social media, where it is seen so far and wide. And also those thoughts, those words are captured in such a way that, boy, they're once they're out there, they're out there. And so I see so often, so tragically, so many people bring dishonor to the name of Christ by violating this very clear verse. And I think one of the problems is in the Christian community is that to have an online following, so often you have to be provocative and you have to take a strong take on something, which then means that you have to attack someone else or someone else's position to elevate yourself above them, or to have a stark contrast in order for people to want to follow you, which is unfortunate. But it is kind of the nature of an online presence and of social media. But it is not becoming a child of God and one who cares about the reputation of Jesus and enhancing the kingdom. There's absolutely a time and a place to stand up for truth. So I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that there's a way to do it as modeled by Jesus, which is consistent with this verse. And so it doesn't mean we just go along to get along with people, but it means that when we do take stances, we do so in a way that is full of grace and that is winsome, and it would be the way that Jesus would do it. And so, again, to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. Notice that Paul doesn't say to Titus, hey, do this with just the people that you get along with or that you like, but this is all people, which includes those who think differently than he does, than we do. And so I've used an acrostic over the years in sermons when this type of subject comes up, and that is we are to think before we speak. We are to ask ourselves some very basic questions that help to filter what it is that we're going to say. The acrostic T for think is it true? And do I know this is true? It's an embarrassing thing, and I've seen it happen where people repost something because it fits their narrative and it fits their position, but then they find out like, oh, well, that actually wasn't true, or that was actually out of context and from years ago, or whatever. But is it true? Before we say something, whether that's verbally or online, we must be certain that it is true. But that's not all. The H in think is it helpful? And when I think of helpful, I think of edification. Is this something that is going to edify people who read this or who hear this? Is it going to help them to grow? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it inspiring? That's a whole nother level of help, or maybe a certain kind of help. But when I'm inspired, it encourages me to take next steps of growth. And so, is what I'm saying, is it going to motivate someone in a positive sense to take next steps on their journey to be flourishing the way that God intends for us to be, to living an abundant life? Or and am I just unloading my junk and I'm just venting in such a way that I don't really care if it inspires anybody? I just feel better because I said what I said. And Is it necessary? Is it necessary? Proverbs 10:19 says, when words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent. Sometimes we just talk too much. And the more words we use, according to Proverbs 10:19, the greater the chance that we're going to say something that is sinful, or that is going to be hurtful to someone else. So is it necessary? Does it need to be said, or do I just want to say it? Probably a lot of times it doesn't need to be said. And lastly, K, in think, is it kind? Is it kind? Does it fit the lens or the filter that the Apostle Paul gave to Titus in this particular verse? And so, in my response, short prayer to the Lord, I said, Father, take away my appetite for controversy and dissension, and may I speak only which glorifies you and helps others. And so my challenge to you today, my challenge to me today, is that we will take seriously these words from the Apostle Paul to Titus, that our churches, that our communities will be much more in line with this instruction. Again, not backing down from what is true and what is right, but doing so in a way that represents Jesus well. And so have a wonderful day. We'll talk again soon.